I still get chills thinking about what happened at the Spring Valley Community Easter egg hunt 3 years ago. I was working as a babysitter for the Kent family at the time, watching their daughter Emma, who had just turned 7. The Kents had a work emergency that weekend, so they asked if I could take Emma to the annual egg hunt at Memorial Park. It was a beautiful spring day, perfect Easter weather. The local community center had organized the event, with hundreds of colorful eggs hidden throughout the park's grassy fields and playground areas. Kids were running everywhere, plastic baskets in hand, parents trailing behind with cameras. Emma was so excited. She wore a pastel yellow dress with a matching ribbon in her hair, and she clutched her white wicker basket like it was the most precious thing in the world. "Lily, do you think I'll find the golden egg?" she asked me, eyes bright with anticipation. The golden egg was the grand prize. It contained a gift certificate for the local toy store. "You might. You've got sharp eyes," I told her as we walked toward the registration table. The volunteers gave Emma a name tag and explained the boundaries of the hunt. Different age groups had designated areas, and Emma would be with the 6 to 8-year-olds in the playground section. When the whistle blew, Emma darted off with the other kids. I followed at a distance, not wanting to hover too closely. That's what the Kents always preferred. They wanted Emma to develop independence. So I stayed back, watching her golden hair bobbing through the playground as she searched under slides and behind benches. I got distracted for maybe 2 minutes, tops. My phone buzzed with a text from Mrs. Kent asking how things were going, and I stopped to take a quick photo of Emma to send back. When I looked up from my phone, I couldn't see her yellow dress anymore. At first, I wasn't worried. The playground was crowded with kids and parents. Emma probably just moved to another area searching for eggs. I walked around the perimeter, scanning for her sunny yellow outfit. After 5 minutes of not spotting her, a knot formed in my stomach. "Emma," I called out, my voice still calm but growing louder. "Emma Kent?" I asked a nearby parent if they'd seen a little girl in a yellow dress, but they hadn't noticed. The playground equipment created blind spots. The tunnel slides, the climbing structures. She could be anywhere. But as another 5 minutes passed, my heart started racing. That's when I saw her, on the far side of the playground near the parking lot. Emma was walking hand in hand with a woman I'd never seen before. The woman wore large sunglasses, a wide-brimmed hat, and a floral spring dress. She was leaning down, talking intently to Emma, who looked confused, but was still following along. "Who is that?" I whispered to myself. The Kents had never mentioned an aunt or family friend who might be at the event. And why would anyone take Emma without finding me first? They were walking purposefully toward the parking lot, away from the egg hunt, away from the crowds. Something was very wrong. "Emma!" I screamed at the top of my lungs. "Emma Kent!" Heads turned. The woman in sunglasses jerked upright, her grip on Emma's hand tightening. Emma looked back, spotting me, and tried to pull away. I ran toward them, still yelling, "Stop! That's my kid! Somebody help!" The woman started walking faster, practically dragging Emma now. A dad who had been nearby jogged over, positioning himself between the woman and the parking lot. "Is there a problem here?" he asked, his voice firm. "This is my niece," the woman said smoothly, though I could see her hands trembling. "We're just leaving early. She's not feeling well." "She's not her niece," I shouted, finally reaching them. "I'm her babysitter. The Kents don't have any sisters. Who are you?" Emma broke free from the woman's grasp and ran to me, wrapping her arms around my waist. "Lily, she said you sent her to find me," Emma said, her voice shaking. "She said you had to go home and that Aunt Meredith was supposed to take me instead." I held Emma tightly, my heart pounding. "I don't know who this woman is, but she's not your aunt." By now, several parents had gathered around us, and one of the event organizers rushed over. The woman in sunglasses began backing away. "I'm so sorry," she stammered. "There must be some confusion. I thought she was my niece Madison. They look so similar." Her voice trailed off unconvincingly. A mother in the crowd pulled out her phone. "I'm calling the police," she announced. That's when the woman turned and ran, literally sprinted toward the parking lot. Two dads tried to follow her, but she jumped into a dark blue sedan that had been idling with someone in the driver's seat. The car peeled out of the lot before anyone could stop it. The police arrived within minutes. They took statements from everyone, including Emma, who was surprisingly composed as she described how the woman had approached her behind the jungle gym. "She knew my name," Emma kept saying. "She called me Emma, not Madison." That detail sent ice through my veins. This wasn't a case of mistaken identity. The woman had targeted Emma specifically. Officer House, who took my statement, was reassuring but serious. "We'll review the traffic cameras along Main Street and the highway entrance. The description of the vehicle and partial plate number should help us identify them." They also took security footage from the community center's outdoor cameras, which had captured distant images of the woman approaching Emma. The Kents rushed back from their work event, horrified by what had happened. Rather than blaming me, they thanked me repeatedly for being vigilant. "If you hadn't been watching so carefully," Mrs. Kent said, hugging me tightly, "we might have lost her." The investigation continued for weeks. The police identified the vehicle as a rental car obtained with fraudulent ID. The woman's description didn't match any known sex offenders or child abductors in their database. 3 years later, we still don't know who she was or why she targeted Emma specifically. The case remains open, but leads have grown cold. The Kents moved to another state the following year, wanting a fresh start somewhere else. As for me, I still babysit, but I've never taken another child to a public event alone. The image of that woman leading Emma away haunts my dreams. The calculated way she approached, how she knew Emma's name, the waiting car. It was all planned. Sometimes I wonder what would have happened if I'd looked up from my phone just 10 seconds later, or if I hadn't screamed so loudly, or if that dad hadn't stepped in to block their path. The police said we were lucky. Most attempted abductions happen so fast that by the time anyone notices, the child is already gone, Officer House told me. They're still monitoring similar cases across the state, hoping to find a pattern. We're still waiting to hear if they ever catch her. But one thing's for certain, I'll never look at an Easter egg hunt the same way again. I never thought something as innocent as Easter could become a source of terror. It's been almost 8 months since it happened, but I still flinch at unexpected knocks and keep my blinds drawn at night. I've moved twice since then, but the memories follow me like shadows. It started in early April last year, about 2 weeks before Easter Sunday. I was living in a small 2-bedroom house in Oakwood Heights, a quiet suburb where most homes sit on quarter-acre lots with enough space between neighbors that you can't quite see into each other's windows. I'd been there for almost 3 years, working remotely as a graphic designer and keeping mostly to myself. The first incident happened on a Tuesday night. I'd fallen asleep on the couch, watching a movie, when a sharp rapping at my living room window jolted me awake just after midnight. 3 distinct knocks, deliberate and firm. My heart racing, I cautiously approached the window and peered through a gap in the blinds. Nothing. Just the darkness of my front yard and the street light at the corner casting long shadows across my lawn. I convinced myself it was a branch from the maple tree near the house, though deep down, I knew the sound had been too precise, too intentional. I double-checked all the locks before returning to bed, writing it off as neighborhood kids playing pranks. The next night, I was in my home office finishing a project when I heard it again. 3 knocks, this time at my kitchen door. The digital clock on my microwave read 12:17 a.m. I froze, my mouse cursor hovering mid-click. "Who's there?" I called out, trying to sound assertive despite the tremor in my voice. Silence. I grabbed my phone, ready to call 911, and cautiously approached the kitchen. The door had a small window at eye level, but the porch light was off, and I couldn't see anything in the darkness. My hand hovered over the light switch, debating whether I wanted to see what was out there. Curiosity won. I flipped the switch, illuminating my small back porch. Nothing. But as I was about to turn away, I noticed something on the welcome mat. A plastic Easter egg painted a deep crimson red. This wasn't from a store-bought kit with cheerful pastels. This was painted to look like congealed blood, with drips and splatters meticulously detailed. My stomach churned as I stared at it through the glass. I didn't open the door. I didn't sleep either. When morning came, I called the local police and reported a prowler. Officer Delaney arrived and listened to my story with a sympathetic but skeptical expression. "Probably just kids," he said, picking up the egg with a gloved hand and examining it. "Easter's coming up. They think this kind of stuff is funny." He opened the egg. Inside was a small folded paper. His expression changed as he read it. "What does it say?" I asked. He hesitated. "Ma'am, do you know someone named Chris?" My blood turned cold. Chris was my ex-boyfriend. We'd dated for 8 months before I ended things 3 weeks earlier. He hadn't taken it well. "It's just his name, written over and over," Officer Delaney said, showing me the small paper filled with Chris in tiny, obsessive handwriting. I told him about the breakup. Chris had become increasingly possessive, checking my phone, questioning my male friends, showing up at my workplace unannounced. When I finally ended it, he'd alternated between desperate pleas and cold silence. The last message I'd received from him simply said, "You'll regret this decision." Officer Delaney took notes and promised to speak with Chris, but warned me that without explicit threats, there wasn't much they could do. He suggested I document any further incidents and consider staying with family or friends for a few days. I didn't have family nearby, and I refused to be driven from my home. Instead, I installed a security camera on my front porch that afternoon and kept all the lights on that night. At exactly 12:17 a.m., my phone alerted me to motion on my front porch. I watched in horror as the live feed showed a figure in an Easter bunny costume. Not a cheap one from a party store, but a high-quality costume with a large head, long ears, and a frozen smile, standing perfectly still on my porch. It raised its paw and knocked 3 times on my door, the sound echoing through my house. I called 911 immediately, whispering frantically about the intruder, as I watch the figure place another egg on my welcome mat and then hop, down my front steps and across my lawn, disappearing into the shadows between houses. The police arrived 12 minutes later. The egg was pale blue this time, with tiny red handprints painted all over it. Inside was a childish drawing of a house, my house, with a bunny standing outside. "This is escalating," Officer Delaney said, his tone more serious. "We'll patrol the area tonight, but I strongly recommend you stay somewhere else." That night, I stayed at a hotel 5 miles away. I didn't tell anyone where I was going. Not even my close friend Megan, who had offered her couch. I was afraid Chris might somehow find out. The next morning, I drove back to check on my house. Everything looked normal until I reached the front door. A circle of eggs, at least 20 of them in various colors, surrounded a larger chocolate bunny on my porch. I didn't touch any of it, just called the police again from my car. While waiting, I scrolled through neighborhood social media groups, wondering if anyone else had reported strange incidents. What I found chilled me. A post from 2 weeks earlier in a community crime watch group mentioned a creepy Easter bunny spotted in several yards at night. The comments revealed that at least 3 other houses had received painted eggs with disturbing messages inside. When Officer Delaney and his partner arrived, I showed them the social media posts. They photographed the eggs, but didn't open them at the scene, instead taking them as evidence. The chocolate bunny they discovered had been hollowed out and filled with strands of dark hair. My hair. That's when they finally took me seriously. They brought me to the station to file a formal report, and a detective interviewed me about my relationship with Chris. They tried calling him, but he wasn't answering his phone. Officers went to his apartment, but reported it empty. He hadn't been there for days, according to neighbors. I stayed at the hotel again, this time with a police patrol checking the property periodically. No eggs appeared that night, or the next. After 3 quiet nights, I began to hope it was over. Easter Sunday arrived. Against my better judgment, but desperate for normalcy, I returned home. The house felt safe in the bright spring sunlight. Friends invited me to an afternoon Easter lunch, and I accepted, grateful for the distraction. When I returned home around sunset, my driveway was empty and the house looked undisturbed. I carefully checked all doors and windows before settling in for the evening. My security camera feed displayed on my iPad beside me on the couch. As twilight deepened into night, my phone rang. Unknown number. "Hello?" I answered cautiously. Heavy breathing, then a distorted voice. "Happy Easter." I hung up and called the police.
What's your emergency?
While on the phone with the dispatcher, my security camera alerted to motion on the back porch, away from where I'd installed the camera. "Someone's here," I whispered into the phone, moving away from windows. "Officers are en route. Stay on the line and find a secure room," the dispatcher instructed. I locked myself in the bathroom, the only room without windows, clutching my phone and a pair of scissors I'd grabbed from the kitchen. Through the door, I heard the 3 distinct knocks on my back door, then silence. Long, agonizing minutes of silence. Until my phone chimed with a text, a picture message from another unknown number. With trembling fingers, I opened it. It was a photo of me, sitting on my couch, taken through my living room window. It had been sent just 15 minutes earlier. "He's been watching me," I choked out to the dispatcher. 3 more knocks, closer now. on the bathroom door. "Police are 2 minutes out," the dispatcher said urgently. I gripped the scissors tighter, backing against the shower door. The bathroom doorknob turned slowly, testing the lock. Then came the sound of my front door bursting open, officers shouting commands, heavy footsteps throughout the house, a frantic scuffling outside the bathroom, something heavy falling. "Police, are you in there? Are you safe?" a voice called. When I finally unlocked the bathroom door, 2 officers stood in the hallway. Behind them, on the floor of my living room, was the Easter Bunny costume, its head removed to reveal not Chris, but his roommate, Darren. I'd only met Darren a few times during my relationship with Chris. He'd always been quiet, watching me with an intensity I'd attributed to social awkwardness. According to the police, after Chris and I broke up, Darren had become obsessed with the idea that I had somehow wronged his friend. In his distorted thinking, he was avenging Chris. The truly terrifying part? Chris had no idea what Darren had been doing. He'd been out of town interviewing for jobs in another state, trying to make a fresh start after our breakup. Darren was arrested and eventually diagnosed with erotomania, a delusional disorder where he believed I was in love with him, despite minimal interaction. The eggs, the knocks, the symbolic timing with Easter, all part of his twisted courtship ritual. I sold the house 2 months later. I couldn't bear to sleep there knowing how long he'd been watching me, how vulnerable I'd been. The police found hundreds of photos of me on Darren's computer, going back months before Chris and I even broke up. Sometimes I still hear phantom knocks at midnight. The therapist says that will fade with time. I've moved to an apartment building with security now, changed my phone number, deleted social media. Chris reached out once to apologize for not seeing the warning signs with his roommate, but I couldn't bring myself to respond. Easter approaches again soon. I've already arranged to be out of town that week. Some associations are too powerful to overcome. I don't think I'll ever see an Easter egg again without feeling that primal surge of fear, the sensation of being watched, hunted. The case against Darren is proceeding slowly. He's been deemed unfit to stand trial, committed to a psychiatric facility for treatment. His doctors say he still doesn't understand what he did wrong. In his mind, he was just leaving gifts for someone he loved. I check the locks 3 times every night now, and I never, ever answer unexpected knocks at the door. Looking back on my time working at Westfield Mall during college, most of my memories blur together. Endless retail shifts, food court lunches, and minimum wage tedium. But what happened during Easter weekend of 2016 still stands out with disturbing clarity. I was 19, working part-time at the mall's photography studio where we handled all the seasonal photo events, including pictures with the Easter Bunny. Easter was always chaos, second only to Christmas for the Santa photos. Families would line up for hours, dressed in their Sunday best, to get pictures of their screaming toddlers on the lap of someone wearing a giant rabbit costume. It was equal parts adorable and absurd. That year, our regular Easter Bunny performer, Rick, called in sick the Friday before Easter. Our manager was frantic, calling every temp agency in town. By some miracle, they found a replacement, a guy named Mark, who had apparently done character work before. He showed up for his shift that Saturday morning, seemed to understand the job, and slipped into the bunny suit without complaint. The costume was elaborate, a full-body white furry suit with attached mitts, foot coverings, and a massive head with mesh eye holes and a frozen smile. Once inside, you couldn't really tell who was wearing it. The Easter Bunny didn't speak, just waved and posed, which made the job even more anonymous. Everything seemed normal that morning. The crowds were typical for Easter weekend. Lots of families, crying babies, and exasperated parents. I was working as a wrangler, helping position kids, making them smile, and directing parents where to stand for the best shot. Around 2 p.m., a young mother named Krista arrived with her daughter Zoe, who must have been about 5. I remember them clearly because Zoe was wearing an elaborate Easter dress with a headband that had actual tiny chicks attached to springs, so they bobbed when she moved. It was ridiculously cute, and I complimented them as I took down their information for the photo package. "Is it a long wait?" Krista asked, looking anxious. "We have to meet my mom at 4. "About 20 minutes, I told her, handing them a buzzer that would vibrate when their turn was approaching. "You can shop nearby if you want, and we'll call you when you're up next." They wandered off, presumably to kill time in nearby stores. When their buzzer went off, they returned promptly. Zoe was bouncing with excitement as I led them to the Easter Bunny's chair, a giant carrot-shaped throne surrounded by artificial grass and oversized eggs. "Okay, Zoe, are you ready to meet the Easter Bunny?" I asked, using my practiced, enthusiastic voice. She nodded vigorously, those little chicks on her headband dancing wildly. I noticed Mark, our substitute bunny, sit up straighter in his chair as we approached. Something about his posture changed, becoming more alert. At the time, I didn't think much of it. The person inside that suit must be exhausted, and he was probably just trying to appear more energetic for the next kid. I positioned Zoe next to the Easter Bunny while giving the standard instructions to Krista, who stood off to the side, watching with a smile. "We'll take 3 poses, 1 standing next to the bunny, 1 sitting on the lap, and 1 where the bunny gives her a high five. Then you can choose your favorites." Everything proceeded normally through the first pose. For the second, I instructed Zoe to sit on the Easter Bunny's lap. She climbed up happily, and I positioned her for the camera. That's when I noticed the Easter Bunny's gloved hands trembling slightly as they held Zoe. Again, I didn't think much of it. Maybe the person inside was getting tired or uncomfortable. "Smile big," our photographer Jake called out. The flash went off for the second picture. As I stepped forward to help Zoe down for the final pose, everything happened at once. The Easter Bunny suddenly stood up, still holding Zoe. This wasn't part of the routine. Jake and I exchanged confused glances. "Hey, we still have 1 more pose," I started to say. But the bunny was already moving, surprisingly fast for someone in such a bulky costume. Zoe looked startled but not scared, probably assuming this was part of the Easter Bunny experience. Krista stepped forward, her expression changing from confusion to alarm. "What's happening? Put her down, please." The Easter Bunny ignored her, moving quickly toward the back of our photo area, where a door led to our break room, and beyond that, a service corridor that connected to the mall's back hallways. "Stop!" Krista yelled, now running after them. I froze for a split second, my brain trying to process what was happening. Then I lunged forward, trying to intercept them. But the Easter Bunny was already pushing through the door with Zoe in his arms. Jake hit the security button under the counter, a silent alarm that would alert mall security. Krista was screaming now, causing everyone in line to turn and stare. "He's taking my daughter!" "Someone stop him." I pushed through the door after them, entering our break room. It was empty, the door to the service corridor standing open. I ran through it, emerging into the plain concrete hallway that most shoppers never see. Looking both ways, I caught a glimpse of white fur disappearing around a corner to the right, heading toward the loading docks and employee parking. I sprinted after them, hearing Krista's footsteps behind me. When I rounded the corner, I saw the Easter Bunny, still carrying Zoe, pushing through the exit door that led to the parking garage. The bunny head was off now, clutched under one arm, revealing a man with dark hair. Zoe wasn't crying or screaming. She looked confused, repeating something I couldn't hear. "Stop him!" I yelled to a maintenance worker who was nearby. The worker looked up, startled, then moved to block the door, but he was too late. By the time we reached the parking garage, we could see a blue sedan speeding up the ramp to the next level, the bunny costume's ears visible through the back window. Mall security arrived moments later, followed by police. Krista was hysterical, trying to explain between sobs what had happened. "It's her father," she finally managed to tell the police officer. "That was Ryan. We're divorced. He doesn't have custody. There's a restraining order." The pieces clicked into place. Mark must have been Ryan using a fake name to get the job. He'd planned this, waiting for his ex-wife and daughter to come for Easter photos, knowing exactly when and how to make his move. The police immediately put out an APB on the vehicle and Ryan's description. They reviewed security footage, which showed him entering the mall that morning carrying a duffel bag, presumably containing a change of clothes for after he ditched the costume. Our manager arrived, horrified, explaining that the temp agency had sent over the replacement bunny's information that morning. The ID provided had obviously been fake, and in the rush to find someone before the mall opened, no one had verified it thoroughly. The police found the abandoned Easter Bunny costume in a mall dumpster an hour later. Ryan and Zoe were gone. I gave my statement to the police, describing everything I could remember. I felt sick with guilt. I should have noticed something was off. I should have reacted faster. The detective assured me it wasn't my fault. This was premeditated. He knew exactly what he was doing and had planned for every contingency. I quit the job the following week. I couldn't face returning to that Easter display. Couldn't stop seeing Zoe's confused face as she was carried away. For months afterward, I checked news sites and social media looking for updates. There was an initial flurry of local coverage. Child abducted by Easter Bunny at mall. But the story eventually faded from the headlines. About 6 months later, I saw a small article saying Ryan and Zoe had been located in Canada. Ryan was in custody, facing multiple charges, and Zoe had been returned to her mother. The article didn't provide details about Zoe's condition or what had happened during those months. I've often wondered about Zoe over the years. She'd be a teenager now. Does she remember that day? Does she have nightmares about a giant bunny carrying her away? Or was she too young? The memory fading like a strange dream. I don't know if Krista ever told her the truth, that it was her father inside that costume, or if she created some other explanation. I hope Zoe's okay, whatever she knows or doesn't know. What haunts me most is how easily it happened. One moment, we were taking happy Easter photos. The next, the child was gone. And the costume, designed to delight children, became the perfect disguise for someone with terrible intentions. Every Easter, when I see mall Easter bunnies, I think about how we never really know who's inside those costumes, behind those mesh eyes. And I think about Zoe, with her bouncing chick headband, carried away by someone she thought was magical, but who turned out to be all too human.
She called 911, but no one came. A rookie cop found her body in a motel. No witnesses, no backup, just blood and a phone still recording. The voice on that phone, it said, "Don't let him take me." I was supposed to protect her, but someone higher up wanted her gone. They shut me down. My partner got shot, and the guy calling the shots, he wore a badge too. That's when I learned justice doesn't wait for permission. Some cases stay with you. This one never left. Don't let him take me.